our brain is constantly scanning for, am I safe, number one? And if you do feel safe, the secondary one is, am I loved? Because if you're inspiring your team, they're going to go above and beyond anyway. Our strategy isn't working, or the people aren't working, or whatever it is. But often it's not that their strategy isn't working, it's that their subconscious beliefs are not working. Our logic doesn't win. Our somatic or our body safety is what actually drives us, right?
You're listening to Beyond Growth with Reyan Fernando.
Steph, welcome to Beyond Growth. It's good to have you here, and really looking forward to talking through the sort of positive psychology coaching stuff you do amongst everything else and in your history. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to have you. And look, I think I mentioned pre-recording, there's some episodes I record and I get a little bit excited because there's sort of depth in the conversation, or there's certain parts of things I love to talk about. So today's one of those kind of episodes where I'm like, ooh, I'm really looking forward to going through and talking about that positive psychology and how that affects leadership in different ways and that limiting factor. But before we go down there and before we start digging into Think Collective as well, just I'll ask in your own words, just your origin story. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what got you here today.
Oh my God!
Not the V line, obviously,
that's not that's not broad at all. Gee whiz. I guess the real origin story. So I actually grew up in a big family, just outside of Bendigo, and pretty much in my late teens, I had basically a neck injury that was excruciating. That pretty much led to chronic pain for over 20 years.
Yeah, wow.
I saw loads of specialists. You could name a specialist or therapy and I would have done it, pretty much. And through that whole process, I just started to get curious about the brain and the idea of how optimizing brain function and performance could actually help solve my problem, because seeing all of these different specialists, they all had different ideas. And so long story short, that's how I got into positive psychology and understanding about neuroscience. I'm an avid learner around the neuroscience area. Anything that comes out that's new, I like to get my hands on. My thought was really I just wanted to help other people so that they didn't have to go what I went through.
Yeah.
And a little bit different because I obviously work with leaders as well, but it's not just pain related. But really it's tied into all of those things. It's tied into performance, mindset. And ultimately the thing that I really saw out of it or took out of that experience was that challenges are here to help us grow, and we can either choose to be a victim in life or we can choose to actually grow from our experiences.
No, it's so true, and I think it's amazing. We sort of talked about that limiting disbelief thing just before as well, before we start recording, and it is one of those things, isn't it? What it causes, that sort of what limits you put on yourself. So keen to dig into a little bit more. But before we do, obviously neck injury when you were younger and going through that, and you went through a lot through that, but ultimately you did a lot of, I guess, physical activity-based stuff growing up, right? Like we've sort of caught up a few times at a couple of networking events run by the great Mark there, who sort of does some great work for us. But yeah, look, it's just nice to when I research these things and I go like, oh wow, so you've done the Great Wall of China marathon or a run as well, and climbed a whole bunch of mountains. So talk me through, I guess, that going from the injury and living with pain over those times, and by getting yourself to actually go through all those experiences as well, which obviously are pushing through boundaries that may have been set, for yourself.
Yeah, I love a challenge. And
clearly, I mean, what was it? Solo travel through Africa, climbed mountains on 6 continents and running the Great Wall of China Marathon. So
Yeah.
that's just a little bit more than I like a challenge, I would think.
Well, I always had a dream. Like when I grew up, I guess I was a little bit of a stereotypical kid, but at the same time, I used to watch this show called The Cities of Gold. It's funny when I speak to other people, no one has ever heard that show.
Yeah,
it was an ABC show, but at the end of that, they had these documentaries on things like the Incas and like they had this historical stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be like Indiana Jones. That did not happen. However, I love doing a combination of historical kind of events with physical. So things like the Great Wall of China Marathon, I actually did that to raise money for a friend of mine who started a charity in Africa. And that was a challenge within itself. So I'd never run a marathon before. I don't want to say always, but from about year 9, I started to run a fair bit, sort of most nights, sort of 10K kind of thing, which became nothing. Kind of felt like nothing when you're doing that all the time. And but I'd never done anything more than that, never really considered it. And then I thought about, well, if you're going to do a marathon and you want to raise money, well, you may as well go big.
Yeah.
So hence the Great Wall of China Marathon. And it was challenging because I'd actually had an Achilles injury beforehand, aside from the whole neck pain thing that I'd been going through and all of that sort of stuff. Like I knew that I was going to do it regardless. And I'd been seeking help. And I went to a number of trainers who weren't interested. And literally I was told, love, why don't you just walk the first time and then we'll do it properly next year. And it was like, I'm going to do it. So you either help me or you don't. Anyway, long story short, I got into pose running. This was 3 months from the actual marathon, so I still wasn't running yet.
Yeah. What's pose running? What do you mean?
So pose running is a form of running that, probably getting a little off topic here, but it's kind of, there's a really brilliant book called Born to Run. And it's about this Mexican tribe called the Tarahumara, who are these village people, and their whole culture is around running. And I love that story because it's based on a cultural book. So leaders who want to read it, definitely read that. It's not just about running, but there's a lot of underlying story there. And we are actually born to run. While a lot of people don't think that they are, and the actual guy who wrote it, which forgive me, I don't remember the author's name, but he was writing for Men's Health magazine. He went out for a run one day and he thought he had ran over a nail. And he was like, oh my God, I've got this excruciating pain. He went to the doctor and the doctor just said, oh, well, you're 6 foot whatever, you're really solid, you're not born to run, you're not meant to run. That's why you're experiencing this pain. He's like, oh, that's a bit weird, I'm just going to get a second opinion. So the second doctor basically came back and said the same thing. And he said, well, if you actually want the best guy in the business, this is his name. And he's like, oh, that's the first guy I spoke to. So long story short, the actual story of that book is him trying to find this tribe, the Tarahumara, and working out what is it with this tribe, why do they run? And basically the focus is on happiness. People who run are generally a lot happier than those that don't, in terms of long distance and culturally in the way that they view life and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. So pose running, for me, kind of tied into all of that. I also did a bit of barefoot running. I actually did a clinic with a guy who was teaching the American basketballers, I think. He was a Russian guy, Romanov, who did this clinic. So basically I trained for that marathon. I had 3 months to go from dodgy Achilles injury. So I literally started from 1 kilometre.
Wow.
And then I built up and I went from 1 kilometre to 42 within 12 weeks exactly to the day.
That's unreal.
And it was awesome. And I kind of had, because it's an endurance event, I had no idea what to expect, because literally you're running through riverbeds with massive stones and where you could easily do an ankle.
And you're running on the wall itself as well?
Running up and down the wall. I think there's like 6,000 steps or something. Like the first 10 Ks is literally straight up. And they actually say, I kind of regret doing it now, but beforehand, it was probably 2 weeks before I decided to watch some YouTube stuff on some people that had done it. Is these guys crying, what have I done? And I'm like, oh my God. And these were super fit athletes. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Who am I to do this, And I'm like, well, so what? Okay, that was their experience. I'm just going to see how I go.
Yep.
So, it was an amazing experience, like literally scrambling up the side of mountains. It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. That
is, kudos on that one. I did like a little Great Wall tour when I was in China, and it was, some of the steepness of some of those walls is insane. And I remember I was like, as a joke, I'm like, I'm just going to sprint up, just unfit, back in 2010 or whatever it was, still unfit, probably unfitter. But yeah, I got to the top and I was like literally almost passed out. I was like, oh my God. So to think about running a marathon on that is the level of fitness you need to keep that. And I understand the guys crying on the video because it's
thankfully
intense.
I didn't get to that, but I think one of the challenges is you're running up. And it's quite a bit of strategy, right? So the guy that won the year that I did it was a local person, no surprise. Yeah. But because the first bit is so steep, and they literally warn you, don't wear yourself up in that first 10K, because a lot of people get maxed out, because then you go straight up like this, and then you're immediately going down the steps.
Yeah.
So you've got all this lactic acid built up in your thighs. And the problem with those steps, as you know, is that they're like this. They're like really big fat ones, then they're skinnier ones, and they go up and down. So you can't get any sort of cadence. It's not as if there's handrails. So
sometimes there's no walls.
There's
no walls in sections. You're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know that if you trip, you are absolute cactus, pretty much. It's like there's, not as if there's hospitals really close by or anything. Anyway, so that was that adventure.
That was great. And look, I saw that one started like, and I must admit, I was in the backyard just running steps yesterday because I'm like, I just need to do some stuff. Not for this, not prepping for this, but ironically, there's this one step that's just a little bit bigger than the rest, and it got me every time, even though it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So it's like small, one big one. And I'm like, damn, that big one. But anyway, sorry. I digress. We digress quite a lot. A
little bit.
But this is what we do.
Yeah, I'm all up for digression anytime.
Cool. So I mean that's great. I love it. And I mean, one thing I want to mention, the camping Arctic Circle as well. That sounds like amazing experience as well.
Yeah.
And obviously you go through that, and you start your career, and you've done a bit of work in the HR space and things like that. And then what was the pivot point? What made you start going down the path of sort of the Think Collective and creating that business? What was the pivotal point there?
That's a good question. I don't know that it was a pivotal point, so to speak. It was a build-up.
Yep.
So even if we get back to, because I didn't probably, now that I recollect your actual question before, you were talking about, hiking mountains and all the rest. So I think being able to do these things, like I was literally told by doctors I'd be lucky to walk, let alone do these things that I desired. Like I literally wanted to do every sort of martial arts. I saw myself as someone doing capoeira, parkour, like they're the sort of things that inspired me. However, having said that, it's really about looking at, rather than going, I'm going to just take on board what they're saying and that's my lot in life, I'm just going to go, what do I believe is my capacity?
Yeah.
What can I do? And so back to hiking the mountains, like there's a lot of leadership stuff that goes on in there, especially the last one that I did. And I'm just going to digress a little bit there because I think it's going to be useful.
Digress
So,
away.
and then I'll come back to the Think Collective bit. But I took my husband on his first mountain hike at the beginning of last year. And we went to Mount Tukul in Morocco, which is the highest mountain in northern Africa.
Okay.
And ordinarily, it's a pretty straightforward hike. Like the hike itself was actually fine. However, the conditions of the hike were insane. So we were told it was going to be 5 degrees. The wind chill was minus 21.
Oh, wow.
We were experiencing 90-kilometre-an-hour winds with snow pellets blasting at our face the whole time. And this was just going from basically the base camp up to the peak. So
how tall was the mountain?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I think it's a little bit higher than Machu Picchu. I can't remember the...
Doesn't matter.
40, maybe 48, 100 feet, something like that, 4,800 metres, sorry.
Okay.
Something like that. Because I think Machu Picchu is 46, or it could be 42. Anyway. In the fours.
Tall.
In the fours. It was reasonably tall.
Yeah.
Because the first couple of days were amazing. And it was just like, my husband was like, oh my God. And I kept stopping, taking photos as I do, because I'm an avid photographer. And I was just like, oh my God, just this whole feeling of being blessed and being connected to something greater than you.
Yeah.
You know, that we are, who are we on this planet? Absolutely gorgeous. Stayed in the base camp there. Horrific experience at that base camp. One that will haunt me forever. But anyway, it was so cold, absolutely bitterly cold the night before. And then we had to get up at 2:00 and we started our trek. And it started out fine, and then the wind started to pick up and people started turning around. Long story short, we ended up getting to this plateau and the wind was just full on. And I was I've never had really bad altitude sickness before, but I was starting to get a bit of a headache, and I was like, okay, I'm just mindful of that, because you never know. Anyone can get it at any time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how fit you are. And I said to our guide, because it was just the guide for the two of us, and I was like, is this safe? He was like, yeah, no, it's safe. And I'm thinking, well, is this actually Moroccan safe, or is this actually safe? And I kind of looked at my husband, and I didn't want to say anything to him because this was his first ever real decent kind of a hike. And he seemed okay. And I was like, okay. So we had to take our crampons off. So crampons are things that hold you into the ice.
Yep.
But I still had my ice pick and my trekking pole, but there was still lots of icy things we had to traverse, and we were going up. And again, a bit like the Great Wall of China, really. If you slip, like you're dead.
Yep.
And there were a couple of really slippery patches, and I was thinking to myself, why on earth has a guide actually had us remove our crampons so early? There were rocks, but there was still plenty of ice. So anyway, we did get to the top, but couldn't stay for long because of the wind. But literally, when I got to that plateau, I was at a point of going, okay, this is a tipping point for me. Now, my brain is saying this is not safe. But is it my comfort zone telling me it's not safe?
Yeah.
Or is it actually not safe? So I had to sort of pause for a minute and actually go inside to go, okay, I don't need to reach the top, or we don't need to reach the top. I would have said to my husband, if I didn't think it was safe, I would have gone, look, let's forget it. And I just went, okay, I'm just going to take one step and then the next and the next, and we'll just see how it goes from there in a nutshell. Thank goodness we made it. And then it was interesting, the whole coming down was another story. But yeah, so in those sort of moments, literally I was like, now I've got to put my big panties on and walk the talk here. This is the stuff that I speak about with leadership teams in terms of going, okay, here's a decisive moment. this is where I need to tap into all of my learnings, and either way it's okay. I either move forward or I don't. But I think with the whole hiking stuff, it does, for me, there's plenty of leadership moments, plenty of growth moments in that, in terms of getting outside your comfort zone, but also going, is this actually safe? Is this not actually safe?
Yeah.
It definitely wouldn't be for everybody. Like, as we came down, when we finished that hike, my husband was like, never again. We'll see about that. But,
Has it been since?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Nothing like that. I did want to do Kilimanjaro the following year, but that hasn't happened. But yeah, so back to that, and back to your question around how Think Collective was born. I think it's just been a culmination of all of these experiences through life that, aside from all of the, there's plenty of university stuff and all of that kind of stuff. That's great. But when you're putting that into practice, it's like, well, I really want to help others be the best that they can be. And I'm a big believer in walking the talk, hence why I do those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Hopefully that's a roundabout. I guess that was a roundabout answer to your question.
No, and look, I think we'll probably dig into a bit more as well. But I'm curious, and this is while you were talking, I was thinking about that, going back inside yourself and working out, is this safe or is this not in my comfort zone, sort of thing. And I find and this may not be the perfect analogy, but more of a question for you. Like, so for me, I've been in a scenario where this is New Zealand, just trying to go bungee jumping, and it was just on top of a mountain. I forget what it was called, but it's just one of those things where you just leap out and you jump, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, even though everything logically tells me it's safe. Like, hundreds of people doing it in front of me. I've seen it, and I'm just curious as to, is, like, that was purely my thinking stopping me.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Purely my thinking, and it was, to this day, it's still one of my like, it's still on my list to go back and complete it. And I gave myself all the excuses afterwards. But at the same time, I'm like, I just couldn't. I couldn't run. It was one of those ones where it wasn't a stand-up jump off where you almost like, you kind of like, okay, I'm doing it, and not saying I generally do that either. But I have this, I have this thing where just literally when it comes to like danger, like I just back off. But that's clearly not even like, not really, like percentage-wise, not that dangerous. I have that with cycling. I just can't. I struggle. Yep. Oh, as in like you okay. There's danger for, like, you could not do it, and it's probably safer.
Correct.
But it was from a okay. There's other dangerous activities you can do from an extreme activity point of view that are probably far more dangerous than this. But that, and even the other ones, like with cycling, I love road cycling, and used to do a couple 100 kilometers a week, sort of before the kids and things like that. But I could never. I struggled to go at the speeds around corners the way so many of the local guys in Geelong ride around the surf coast. And I'm like, so I had to like stop riding with packs because I'm like, I can't do that. It just freaks me out.
Yeah, but if you think about that, so before we came on, we were talking about overthinking.
Yep. Yeah, that's literally
and
it.
Overthinking, it's a distress behaviour, but at the same time, like, your brain is set for survival, right? So to actually alter that, it's a bit like that pivotal point when I was up on the mountain. Okay, it's set for survival. Survival's telling me get off the mountain. However, there's something we can override that. However, ultimately, and I get it, like I've done the bungee jumping when I was in Africa, and it was challenging because if you do overthink it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because our logic doesn't win. Our somatic or our body safety is what actually drives us, right? So our subconscious. And we quite often try to overthink scenarios and use logic when we're emotional beings. So logic will never override emotion. Emotion will always win out, especially when we're in fight or flight, which you clearly were at the edge of that that mountain, and your brain is like, what are you doing? Why would you be jumping off a perfectly solid bit of ground here into the ether?
Yep.
So it makes sense. So you can go, okay, give yourself a break. And another a funny example, so I can totally relate to that. I was taking out this executive group because sometimes I do these workshops, and I thought I'll take them through a bit of orienteering, and we'll do an obstacle course because I'm all up about getting physical. And one of the things was actually jumping off a telephone pole.
Okay.
So you had to climb up the telephone pole and literally from underneath go up and around the top, like it felt like an A4 piece of paper size bit of wood. So you're there were no handles.
Yeah.
You kind of had to, like a koala, sort of come up and over the top. And I was like, okay, don't think about it, just jump. Don't think about it, just jump. Because then from there you had to jump off and you had to reach out for like a swing, like those tightrope, trapeze swing thing, which was like, oh my God. The problem was that the telephone pole was kind of blowing in the breeze. So I was like, if I don't do this straight away, I know I'm going to overthink it. And I was like, cool, I was about to go. And then, of course, people on the ground started to count.
Oh.
They were like 1, and they counted to 10. And by that stage, it was way too late. I'm like, oh my God, now I don't want to go. So because you're overthinking it and you're like, oh, but if I jump, then the telephone pole is going to push back as I leap forward and then I'm going to miss it. Yeah. So how is that going to work? Which is exactly what happened in the end, because I did end up jumping. But when we overthink, we just recognise, okay, we've got to create a pattern break there. We've just got to do the thing. Otherwise, overthinking will come into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we won't do it. So just show yourself some compassion that your brain was keeping you safe in those moments, Reyan.
I just wanted the photo.
Yeah.
Steph, I just wanted the damn photo.
Yeah.
But and it's funny though. So one of my mates who was there, he's great, been mates for years, and we were in New Zealand together. So he was doing them all. He did that one. He did a bunch of different ones, and he just basically he'll do that. But then it's funny. We were doing a reflective talk about it. I'm like, man, I just couldn't do it. He's like, yeah, that's, I don't get it. But then he goes to me, he's like, Reyan, I could never start a business like you start a business.
Yep.
Like you, and like even now with the second time round with what I'm doing now with the EOS, he's like, you're doing it again. Like I can't comprehend. I talk about like the business over the last 2 years, and he's like, oh man, that just seems so risky. Like so much, So it's funny.
Is it risk or is it responsibility? Because again, if you come back to personality types, like you as a thinker, are more likely to take on board responsibility that other personality types won't.
Yeah. Just give me 30 seconds. If you're based in Geelong and you're looking to connect, grow, and be a part of a supportive business community, you need to check out the Geelong Chamber of Commerce. When I started my first business, the Chamber had a great impact on my growth. And now with my new business, it continues to play a big part in helping me grow. I believe in it so much that I'm now on the board. So if you're running a business in Geelong, I can't recommend joining enough. Find out more by heading to geelongchamber.com.au. Now back to the show.
And people might say, oh, that is risky, but it's not the risk that they are averse to. It's the responsibility, because it is. It's a big deal. Like,
oh, it is.
I hope you're proud of yourself, because it's a massive deal to start a business and to stick with it.
Oh yeah, look, I am, and it's it's kind of my leave pass when I'm jumping about is starting starting a business a couple of times and surviving. Because it's one of those things. But I agree though. I think it is responsibility, because it's not like just going to work, doing your work and coming back. You're still responsible for something, but ultimately you just do your bit. But yeah, when you start your business, as you would know as well, it's just you're responsible for everything.
Correct.
So okay, that's cool. It was interesting, and I don't know. But I see that with my kids. So I think obviously I've had much influence on my son. He's very risk averse, and he'll think about things. He'll still do things I wouldn't have done at his age from a just physicality point of view. But at the same time, I've sort of put that on, and I can see I get that from my mum, because she's very risk averse as well.
Yeah.
but it's funny. I'm just glad my daughter's she's a bit more crazy, so she'll just jump off things. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So that's anyway, that's good to know. And so I guess going back 5 years, we all went through some craziness in life, and I think your impact through COVID and lockdowns and things like that was far greater than most. But that was kind of a big part of your journey, wasn't it? In the sense of like going through that process and then deciding whether, okay, do I rebuild as your business, seeing your business sort of disappear in front of you through all the craziness in Victoria and the world. But talk us through that. What was that pivotal? I feel like that was probably more pivotal in sort of where you were going to go with what you were dealing with and things like that. But share with us how you went through that.
Sure. So you're talking about my parents passing.
Yeah.
So both my parents passed within 9 months, and yeah, it was a crazy time. So I guess at the beginning of COVID, it was kind of more at the beginning that my parents actually passed, but and then of course businesses were shutting down and they were getting rid of any non-essential or perceived non-essential consultants and things like that. And so that was kind of one thing, but then it also took me a couple of years to sort out my parents' estate. And yeah, there was a whole bunch of other stuff, I guess, went on with that, like just because they were farmers and sorting out their property and cleaning it up and all of that sort of stuff. And at the end of that time, I was that exhausted. I just wasn't sure that I had the energy to start again.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't, like, I remember looking on Seek at potential jobs and I was like, ugh. And literally I had a visceral feeling within me, because I'm all about listening to my subconscious feedback, which was no, like it was literally I was moving away from these potential opportunities. And there was nothing that really fitted me well, because I've never really kind of square peg, round hole kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've never really fitted into just one thing. I've been a number of things. I think just having run my own businesses in the past and stuff like that. And so that really was probably, as you say, more of a tipping point for me, going, okay, where is it that I want to be in life and what is in alignment with where I want to be? And I knew that getting a job was going to be the easy route for me. And I've never done that, to my own annoyance at times. I'm like, why do I choose the challenging thing? But I know that it's in alignment with my authentic self. And again, even going through that experience with my folks, it was literally the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life. And it wasn't just them passing, but all the other things surrounding that as well.
Yeah. And
I think I'm a better human being for that experience. And again, just adding to my little toolkit so I can help other people. So that was pretty much it. So I was like, okay, let's start this thing again. So that's when that's when I started creating online programs.
Yeah.
So, I pretty much haven't stopped ever since. So, and I look back now and go, well, it doesn't take long before you notice the fruits of your efforts.
Yeah.
Really.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it resonates with me so much when you talk about not just taking a job, if that makes sense. I sort of I started my first IT business that it got too much, and thankfully was able to sort of move myself and get acquired, so to speak, into another IT organization. I was work there, but I felt like working there just was so against how I naturally work. Like you said, that sort of the ability to just the way I work just didn't quite work for me. And, I did it for 10 years, but it's right now I feel so much more happier from a professional sense of like what I'm doing and what I can do, and it's not easy, but I feel like it's better for you.
But yeah, we live in a growth-centric world, not a comfort-centric one, contrary to what most people think. But I'm kind of curious, like when you were doing that and you were saying that it was going against how you like to work, what did you notice about yourself during that time, about your way of what I would call being and doing? What did you notice on the inside and how you approached life when you were doing something potentially that was a bit misaligned?
Yeah, the misalignment came a lot from, I think I was bored.
Yeah.
I was really bored. Love the people I work with, and that's probably what kept me going for so long. And we still keep in touch with almost everyone, not everyone, but most of the people that were there, we kept touch with. But yeah, it's that bored, and I think just struggling to start certain things. Like I would do things, and there's certain things I love doing in that space from a service delivery leadership point of view, and I love the leadership side of things, and I love the how do we grow this kind of things. But the day-to-day stuff was insane, driving me insane. But ultimately, towards the end, it was, and then the strength I get was, I get strength, or I get energy from being around people. And that's when lockdown hit, we just, like, you lost all that energy. And I never liked virtual meetings beforehand. And then we just went into a world where that's all we did. And we just, so it was 2 years of that. And that's where I felt like it was a culmination of just being in that wrong sort of space, just from what I personally need, but then completely dragging the energy out of it for a couple of years. That's kind of where I started to really just feel that burnout and stepped away completely. I just had to do it, and and I went into another job as well. Quickly got bored again. I'm like, oh God, I can't do the same thing. I think it comes down to I can't do the same thing every single day.
Well, that's the thinker again.
Yeah.
Because thinkers want to achieve stuff.
Yes.
And because I'm a thinker as well, like we get on top of stuff really quickly, and then we get bored if things don't change. So if you give us a task to run a business, we'll throw everything at it. We will learn all the stuff that we need to, and within 6 months, if we don't get constant change, then we get bored. And I think that's why what both of us do now, you with EOS and what I do with my business, we're going into different businesses, we're tackling different problems. So it's project work is perfect for our type of personality because it's not the same stuff each day.
Yeah. That's exactly what I tell people. I feel like I'm in like 12 different leadership teams.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And I almost like, I've got a bunch of technology or IT companies I work with, and I love it because there's a couple of industries that I feel like very passionate about the IT space. The amount of work that goes into running an IT company, I just have this soft spot where I just want to help them. But man, I love when if it's a real estate, insurance company, finance, and accountant, I get into those leadership teams, and I'm like learning new stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is so good, and it just adds to your knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. So the thinker, tell me, where's that from? What's that concept?
Oh, so that's actually from Process Communication Model.
Okay. Tell me more.
Stephanie Caldow was the creator of that. He actually was Bill Clinton's PR man back in the day when Bill Clinton was the governor.
Okay.
So it comprises 6 different personality types. The thinker is just one of them. And I use that as part of my methodology. I'm usually not a huge fan of personality profiling, except this one is more than that because it actually gives you an overview of how the people communicate, so how they prefer to communicate, what their key psychological needs are, and what their key distress behaviours are. Because most profiles, which you're aware, and I certainly don't want to bag any of them, but they just sort of go, oh, this is what you are. And you're like, yeah, no, I knew that, and you don't use it. But whereas this one it's an excellent communication tool, and it's a really great self-awareness tool as well, which is the key thing that I focus on is self-mastery and self-awareness, to better gain high performance. So if you understand, well, if my psychological needs are achievement and time structure, or if it's getting stuff done, or if it's being accepted for who I am, and you're not getting that, you can actually fill your own need where required. Or if you know what your partner is or your kids are or your teammates, you can help feed their needs as well. So it's a really great tool for creating connection. I use it for recruitment purposes, especially if people are recruiting higher end roles that are really important. But frankly, I think every single position in a business is important because it all impacts different areas. But as a general communication tool, it's amazing. And back to the Bill Clinton bit, he actually learnt about process communication. And I get that, like, I don't really recall him being around. I was too young for that. But I do recall him being very well liked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because he was using the language of each of those personality types and the key psychological needs of each of those personality types in his speeches, so that
he's covering everyone
so
off.
People are like, oh my God, he's speaking directly to me. How does he know? But he was just ticking everything off the list. So I've even done that because my background's in working with large construction companies, and I've done that with tenders, like drilling into who are we actually giving this to, and because when you're doing a cover page, you want to grab people's attention and have them know we get you. And that's what process communication model is really good for.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
We use we work a lot with Colby.
Yep.
And that's I like the simplicity of it. But this sounds really cool. I'll check it out. And yeah, look, I think it's that communication connection. Even Colby does the same thing. It's like how we communicate as leaders. Know thyself, but then know how you communicate with others. So that's really important. But keen to check that one out for sure.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that's we've gone through a bit of the history side of things, and I'm curious. So when you working with leadership teams, we sort of you start talking about the subconscious being the limiter or the problem, and I'd like to dig into that a little bit and just go through some of that process. So when you're saying that's like a real bottleneck, in business isn't the strategy, it's the way they think, the way they feel. What do you mean? And let's go into that one and see how that works for leaders.
So I always find it fascinating when I might have a company come to me and they say, the team is the issue, or this person is the issue. And I always go, isn't that interesting? So, because where I come from, it's a space of absolutely no judgment, and let's just dig in and see what we uncover.
Yeah.
And usually businesses will either go, okay, our strategy isn't working, or the people aren't working, or whatever it is. But often it's not that their strategy isn't working, it's that their subconscious beliefs are not working well for the business. So if you think about, like I see you've got Patrick Lencioni's books on your shelf, which I'm a big fan, and I use the 5 Dysfunctions of Team quite often.
Good
Not that
book.
I'm a big fan, being the positive psychology, don't know about the title of that, but that's another story. But the concepts are really great.
Yep.
And but part of that is in getting to have a business that thrives, you need to be doing what's best for the business, not what's best for you. And that's a big one that I find that leaders are most challenged by, because they're like, what do you mean? If I'm the owner of the business, then what I say goes. It's like, well, when you get to a certain point, it's not about you. If this is a thing that you want to grow, you're talking about leaving a legacy and moving on. Now, if you're in this for a short term, that's totally fine. But if you want this thing to live past you, then you've got to really change how you think about things.
Yeah.
And it's not about you anymore. It's about the business. So really just digging into some of those, we'll call it mindset things because most people are familiar with that term. I like to call it mental set, which is around your thoughts, beliefs, habits, behaviours and interpretations, which is kind of the full gamut, and people's language as well, because people are often not mindful of their language because we are run by our subconscious. About 95% of what we do is at the subconscious level. So even in this conversation, am I actively, consciously thinking about the answer? Not really. I'm just tapping in and my subconscious is babbling on, no doubt. It's just having this stuff come out. And because if you think about, okay, so at the end of the day, let me ask you a question. At the end of the day, you come home and your family, you walk in the door at home. What do you say?
What do I say?
Mm.
Usually it's get off the iPads and say hi.
Beautiful.
No.
Beautiful.
No. It's just, it's hi, how was your day? How was school? That kind of stuff.
Tick, tick, tick. And what do they say?
Good. And then back in the iPads.
Correct. And this is what we do all day long, right? We have these habitual conversations that we don't really think about. It's just habit. So that's where, when I come into a business, I look at things like that and go, okay, are these habitual ways of thinking? Obviously, that's a very minor example. But when we go to the supermarket and we've got somebody taking our groceries through, what do they say?
Yeah, hi, how's your day?
And you go,
I got to pause whatever I'm listening to. And then take one headphone out and go, good.
good, thanks.
Just so I'm not yelling in the supermarket.
Good, thanks. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that we do that are habitual. It's really just shaking things up and recognizing what that is.
So as a business owner, what are the examples of sort of common habitual practices that we do that tend to put us or hold us back in that space? Like that's, I'm curious as to what that translations or what that translates into a business world.
I think there's a lot of things. I think, like, if you break it down, like as an example, I went into a business once and we were actually going to look at the company values, mission, purpose, because that's another thing that I run, and I know that you run that as well. And because they hadn't thought about it and they wanted to basically go from $40 million business to 60. And I basically said to them, well, what's your values, vision and purpose? They're like, oh, what do you mean? So I'm like, okay, let's focus on that. But I also said, well, what got you here will not get you where you desire to be. And they didn't take kindly to that. And it's like, well, if what brought you here was going to get you to where you desire to be, you would be there already.
Yep.
So I think, and that's fine. Like I don't go into businesses for people to agree with me. It's just some ideas. It's just some things to throw around. So the other thing as well, so just before I ran that workshop, and it was interesting because one of the directors came in and they said, so what is this all about? And this person was a founding director. And I was like, well, I was brought in for this purpose. And they were like, well, we're not changing anything. If anyone disagrees with what I think, then there's going to be a problem. So, and I see this in businesses quite regularly where it's very autocratic, it's my way or the highway. So how do you inspire teams? And I talk about inspiration, not motivation, because motivation to me is a bit of a power over. I want you to be motivated so that you will be more productive, so I get more money or more profit or whatever it is. But when we come from inspiration, we're inspired. And I always use Patagonia as an example because I think they're a brilliant company in terms of inspiring their people.
Yeah.
of course, I've never worked there, so I can't say for sure that they're awesome on the inside, so to speak, but their ethos is amazing, and they walk the talk. So, because I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to work there, just because I'm so inspired by their mission in life, which is to save the planet.
Yeah.
Even though they're a clothing company.
Doesn't get much bigger than that.
No, exactly. And this is where people often don't appreciate the impact that they can have. And if you can inspire your team from the inside so they feel it internally, all of these other things just fall to the wayside, like this KPI stuff and all of that. I'm not a big fan of KPIs because, again, if you're putting in KPIs, there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of inspiration, because if you're inspiring your team, they're going to go above and beyond anyway. Or if you're going to put in KPI, nothing wrong with goals, but have them set their own targets so that they are empowered by that. So I'm all about empowerment rather than top-down kind of stuff. And I think there's and again, the use of language, like talking about other things, like, and it might sound finicky, but calling your team staff. And I had this conversation with a group, and I'm like, again, it's like there's no right or wrong, but just ask your team how they feel being called staff and see what comes back. And it's just curious that they're like, oh, team is more inclusive, and it is, because psychologically there's a big difference in that kind of thing. So it's about removing all of these potential barriers that people put in place based on stuff that they've just, a lot of businesses grow from one or two people, and then they get bigger and bigger, and then they're trying to use these same processes in large organisations, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
No, I agree. And look, I firstly totally agree with staff versus team. I can't stand the word staff sometimes being used, but teams just...
It's like a swear word.
Yeah. But to your point, so I work with leadership teams as well with regards to creating their, the core values, the core target, the core focus, and things like that. And we work with them to bring it down to the team. And I totally agree with you. And this is something we sort of work on heavily with teams. Is like the leadership team will come up with a vision, and that includes the owners, co-founders, or whatever it is. Come up with a vision, and then we want to make sure that the vision is shared by all, and that inspired word really resonates, because that's absolutely it. Because if you can inspire the team, it's so much more valuable than just motivating them. But how do you, when you work with leadership teams, how do you get that? How do you get the vision, mission, whatever you want to call it, and get that down to the team? Because I feel like that's the thing that, trying to get the leadership team all on the same page, that's step one. And that sometimes, can take a year, can take a couple of years. And sometimes, depending on the leadership team, it can take a bit longer. But then ultimately for that to go down to the rest of the organization, for them to be inspired, is something, especially, I'll take like an IT company. I think IT companies, where especially when it comes to people at the coalface, so, customer facing, trying to close tickets, kind of fix issues, they sort of see these things and go like, yep, I've just got 400 tickets coming my way. Like, yeah,
that
sure.
means nothing to me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you want to do this? That's great. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on getting that down to that level?
I have plenty of thoughts.
Go.
What a surprise.
Hit me.
I'd probably do it a little bit different.
Yeah.
My ideal scenario. Now, if people say no, I just work with what I got.
Yeah.
My ideal scenario is that we have a mix of people who create the vision.
In the room.
Okay. And especially, or if there's an existing vision, we again bring in a group of people and then we discuss it. What does that mean to you? But if you're 20 years in or 10 years in and you haven't thought about it before, well, let's get some people from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't want 100 people there because it's challenging, but I love the idea of a mix because, again, as you say, that person bringing in the tickets that is just absolutely hammered is going to have a different thought process to somebody up at the top, so to speak, of the hierarchy. who is running the business, so they get a different view of what's going on. So in terms of creating a vision, you want it meaningful for all levels. Otherwise, as you say, it's the leaders who are often not at that ground level, who are disconnected from that, who haven't maybe never done that ticketing process, or it was a very, very long time ago that they were there, and they forget.
Yeah.
So if we can bring a small group of people from all levels in, I just find that's an amazing process. And the thing that I love to do is talking about your best day at work.
Okay.
Starting there. And you will find that a lot of people have similar types of stories in terms of the theme is similar. And usually it always comes back to helping others.
Yeah.
It always comes. And then it's like, okay, well, and you think about like Patagonia, back to them, and how did they come up with saving the planet? Well, they were like, well, how are we going to do this? Well, let's put on an eBay store where our secondhand clothing can be sold. Like a lifetime, what do they do? If you've got a rip or a tear in something, there's a lifetime guarantee where they'll fix that for you. Now, that may only be in the States, I'm not sure. But so they're actually walking that talk. So, and I'd imagine that wasn't just from top level. They would have brought in a number of different people. So that's the way that I'd ideally do it. And then with the broader group who weren't involved, you actually have sessions with everybody. Everybody gets involved. And I don't care if there's 1,000 people in the workforce, everybody gets involved so that they can connect to that. And you kind of go, what does this mean to you? Because it might be a statement such as saving the planet. But what does that mean to you? This is how we're looking at it. And they might just have a slightly different bent on it that is purposeful for them.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be purposeful for every single person coming in. And then when you recruit people, you do it as part of the recruitment process as well. So again, I always, because sometimes people get me into help with their recruitment specifically because they want me to psychoanalyze people or something. But I often ask, what are your values? And people are quite taken aback. They're like, oh, I've never thought about it. But from a company perspective, you want to be asking those questions to ensure that there's alignment, and then you want to share what yours are and ensure that that alignment's there.
No, that's so true, and it's the and it does take time, but that recruitment is kind of the perfect time to catch them wrong word. You know what I mean? Like sort of get them on the same page day one.
Oh, yeah, you want to see if there's alignment or not. Yeah.
And then always it seems a little bit harder when you've had people there for years and years, because that actually takes a bit more time, a bit more conversation for people to sort of adapt to change and be a part of it. But yeah, it's good to do at the recruitment stage, but it is beautiful though when you do see that vision cascade through a business.
Oh, it's amazing. It's super inspiring.
And people are coming to work because they want to make a difference in whatever that space is. Like the Patagonia example too. There's that space that people go, okay, cool, we want to try and save the world. That's it's kind of it's a beautiful thing to see. And one thing I think leadership teams should be aware of, it's not something that does happen overnight. Especially if you haven't done something for 20 years and you've just start a process, you've got to repeat yourself off, and you've got to get there and share and make sure that everyone's across that why you're here and what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think as well, recognizing their own limiting beliefs. Like there's this one accounting company that I'm working with at the moment, and it's funny because I've had them for a few years, and I started this thing going, you are not just accountants. Because I'd go, oh, we're just accountants. It's like, you're not just accountants. You're changing people's lives. That's kind of become a bit of a catchphrase, and they're actually talking about maybe at some point having it as their tagline. But it's true, because it's like everybody needs an accountant. Like through COVID, you either need an accountant to close up your business or to deal with grants or all of these things. And they're often... they're really that they get into the nitty gritty of people's lives.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is life-changing stuff. So it's not just playing with numbers. It's really having an impact on people's lives. So if people kind of go, oh my gosh, I'm impacting others' lives in a positive way more than I realise. I don't care if you're selling coffee. You might be bringing someone joy each day.
Yeah.
So people often keep themselves small because it's easier that way rather than to shine. So, and I love helping people shine. It's pretty cool.
It is, and I think that's and that's kind of what I love with what you do and what I do with leadership teams is, the impact we have. Because if we can impact that leadership team to do better, to be better, to live better, and then they inadvertently impact their whole team, and then those team has families. So so it's a beautiful place to be when you sort of can have that, be able to help in such a great way. Because we are here, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I get out of being an EOS implementer is that knowing that I can help people get more out of their business, but inadvertently help so many more people as well.
Totally, because the biggest buzz that I get is not just about helping the business or that person. It's about the impact on their family or their community.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you're doing with EOS is that when your clients sign up, they're signing up for the full package. So you go from end to end, which is really great. So you can actually see the progress, which I think is so important because people often, what I find is they like to dabble a little bit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's just get clear on our values. Well, that's not going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
You need to have that accountability partner. You want to have somebody there who's taking you along the journey.
Absolutely. And EOS is so simple, from all the way from the 2-page, vision traction organized, the VTO to accountability charts, but the interconnectivity between all of it. And we sort of say this at EOS, we see the matrix when it comes to EOS. Because you sort of go there and you're like, oh, that connects to this and that connects. All of a sudden, you've got this scenario where every single thing matters that you do in that space because it all interconnects.
It all interconnects, absolutely.
And it plays a massive role. And, it was we have something called a QCE, Quarterly Collaboration Exchange. So all the EOS implementers in APAC come together from around APAC, surprisingly. It was one of the things we sort of did a deep dive on the marketing strategy and just how important the marketing strategy is one of those ones that, people go, oh, yeah, cool, we've got one. It's like, no. What is it? So we try and simplify it because as soon as you have a 4-page marketing or anything, that's more than a couple of pages, you don't look at it again.
Yep.
So it was just one of the things, but then just being able to get that marketing strategy understood by the whole organization and how valuable that is, not just the sales team, not just the leadership team, but if people know that, oh, these are 3 uniques as an organization, it's so much more impactful. And all that, and it's that thing. So if you get all those connected across the whole organization, it does take time, but it is amazing. So it's just, this is where I love our little QCE sessions because we just go deep on certain topics and you come back and you're like, oh, doing it for a couple of years and you're still learning new stuff. And then there's people there, I've got implementers in Australia who've been around for, 10 plus years and they're still learning for the first, they're going, oh, that's great. So we just keep getting deeper in that space, which is so good. So good.
And I love that as well because I'm a big believer that I don't care what level you are in the business, you have the opportunity to be an ambassador for that business and to make sales if you so choose. And I think a lot of people don't get that. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't care if you're the cleaner of a business or the receptionist or whatever it is. If you empower your team, as you say, if through transparency and you engage them and you inspire them, they start talking to people. And you never know who people know.
Yeah.
And they might know someone that they could connect you with. So, and I'm not saying that they need to do the full sales process, but it's like, hey, maybe you need to speak to someone at my work, and to me, again, I think a lot of money is left on the table, so to speak, because people are not empowered, also back to that responsibility thing, or given the responsibility to actually do that.
Or believe in it to want to share it.
Correct.
And we're heading into barbecue season. and there's a lot of barbecue conversations happening.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, and we joke about that as one of the things that, what do you, and especially with that marketing strategies, like those three uniques are things that if you had 50 people in your organization knew the three uniques of the organization, why we do what we do and how we do it, and, not everyone's going to share it, but, the ones that passionately care about it, if you give them the tools to share it, it's so valuable. That's 50 people in your marketing team, literally just being able to spread the word, right?
Totally.
I love it. And just going back to that subconscious problem, and how do you know, or how does someone identify that this, that the subconscious is limiting you?
Well, that's actually a very tricky question, because there's always something.
Yeah.
If you, for example, so one of the things that I do, just as an aside, is I also do some hypnosis with certain clients.
Oh, cool.
And I actually had a session run on me a couple of weeks ago. And I was just kind of helping out somebody, and I was like, okay, because we were just doing some stuff on blockages. And I'm like, I've been thinking about doing YouTube for a while.
Yeah.
Because I was locked out of Facebook. That's a whole other story.
That's episode 2.
Episode 2. And I was like, well, maybe the universe is telling me that YouTube is more for me. Because, again, people want specific content when they're typing into YouTube and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I need to be doing that. And I'd sort of put it down. So I've been thinking about that for about 3 years. And I'd sort of put it down to priorities. Not just time, because as I said to you before the session, that it's not about time, because there's no such thing as time management. It's about our energy and what we do within the time that we have. Mm-hmm. So for me, it just clearly hasn't been a priority. But after that hypnosis session, it actually came out that I did have a blockage there around it. And it was something random from my childhood that I was really surprised with. I was like, wowza.
Wow.
That is a bit random. And so sometimes, and I would never in a million years have thought what happened way back in the day when I was probably 8 would have had an impact on this sort of a blockage, because I've always felt like, I'm certain I'll do it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Because I am more of a doer. So I'm like, okay. So when it comes to limiting beliefs, I think one of the key things, so one of the things that I do through my programs is focusing on language and what are we telling ourselves. So to find out if you have any limiting beliefs, I encourage your listeners to actually take a journal of any type of things that they might repeat to themselves. For example, I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that. Anything after I am is usually a limiting belief.
Okay.
No matter what it is. Now, having said that, sometimes it's awesome. Like, I am a runner. Well, what makes you a runner? Are you a runner if you run a kilometre each day, or are you a runner if it has to be over a certain amount? Like, silly things like that, because we're constantly judging ourselves and comparing and doing all of these things. So when I come into the picture, I normally poke and prod and kind of go, okay, so tell us about that. Why is that so?
Yeah.
So, but that journaling side of things is a pretty powerful thing, because especially if it's around something that you want to do. So if it is something that you want to do and you're just not doing it, just consider, well, okay, tell us about that. Yeah,
okay. I'll have to do that. Can't think of anything else. I do have limiting thoughts, but I can't remember any of them. Definitely, I'm not a cyclist comes back to me a few times, because I just I'm just not getting time to do. But my limiting thought process on that is that I was doing a couple 100 Ks a week, and now if I do like 10, it just doesn't feel like I'm doing anything.
Isn't that interesting? Because again, is that comparison coming in? Well, because all of these other people are going super fast around corners, I don't do that anymore, so therefore I'm not a cyclist.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think it's comparison to myself more.
Yeah.
That's just me just being scared.
Well, yeah.
My brain going, don't kill yourself.
But it's interesting as well. So just
I like my collarbones, and I feel like that just seems to be
Yeah.
something that goes quite quickly.
correct. I mean, if you're on the road, let's not even go down that path.
Yeah.
But it's funny because my husband and I did a bike ride in New Zealand in January this year. And we had booked it with some friends, I don't know, maybe 6 months in advance or something like that. And it was a 350-kilometre bike ride over 5.5 days kind of thing. And I'm like, awesome, great. I'll have to get a bike and start practicing. And my husband was like, but you don't ride. Because we're talking about, because my other friends were like, oh, we're going to use an e-bike. I'm like, well, that's cheating in my mind. If you're going to do something through the mountains, you want to do it properly. And then that's when my husband's like, yeah, but you're not a rider. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean that I can't be a rider. Like, I never perceived myself as not a rider. Just because I don't ride doesn't mean that I can't ride. So, or I hadn't ridden for God knows how long. So it would be completely different to you in terms of you riding 10K a week or a day or whatever it is. So it's just perception. It's like, of course I can do that. But I wasn't doing it at the time.
Yeah.
So that's where it's just curious how, and others can put their limiting beliefs on you as well. Like my husband, bless him, was doing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, so it's interesting. But in terms of those things, if you think about something that you want to do or you desire, and you consider what is stopping you. Now, often we use justification for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then we go, okay, so once we come up with all the reasons, go, okay, and really what's going on? What do we really think? And usually it's a fear-based state, so fear of something. So is that, and if we start digging down into that, is it a fear of being worthy, not being loved, not being safe? Because actually throughout our day, our brain is constantly scanning for, am I safe, number one? And if you do feel safe, the secondary one is, am I loved?
Mm.
So if we don't feel safe or don't feel loved, we're definitely going to be in fight or flight. And especially when we come to making those decisions, especially going around the corner, jumping off a perfectly good cliff somewhere. You know, it's like, am I safe? No. I might be loved, but I'm not safe. So it comes back to that sort of stuff as well. But ultimately, is it a story that we've created about ourselves?
So I'm curious, this one. And my one at the moment, I'm struggling with fitness. So if you don't mind if I share this one.
Yeah.
And obviously cycling's one.
Go for it.
But yeah, I just cannot do stuff consistently.
You cannot do so. Okay, consistently. Yeah, good word.
So I'll do like sporadic. Yep, cool. Do a big walk or whatever it is. But and I don't know, right now I've got more time than I ever had. Sorry, more flexibility. We always had the same amount of time. I've got more flexibility with my time than I've ever had, but I'm still finding myself just not doing it. And I just like, but I crave being fit. Like I want to be fit. It's just, it's just this weird.
Well, okay, so there could be a number of things here. And frankly, this is an awesome hypnosis one because it sounds like you've got a parts conflict there.
Parts conflict? What do you mean?
Well, because we have different parts within us, right? So we have, for example, parts that might do anxiety, parts that might do fear, parts that might be a protector, parts that might be subservient. So we've got all of these parts. And individually, it's like that. Have you seen that Inside Out movie?
No.
Oh, it's a great movie. You got to watch it. It's a cartoon.
Yeah. I think the way my kids watch TV, my kids have watched it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've got bits and pieces. Is that with like the angry red guy?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it's
Anyway,
been a while,
sorry,
but
yeah.
But they've got all
Yes.
of these little
Yeah.
characters in your head. They're all your parts,
Yep.
right? So, and sometimes if there's a conflict between those two parts, then there can be this feeling of a push and pull. One part of me really wants this, the other part doesn't. And that's how we kind of verbalize it. The other thing as well is your language. I really struggle with fitness, or I'm really struggling with fitness right now.
Yeah.
So every word that we speak and every thought that we think is programming our subconscious. So if you're telling your subconscious that you're struggling with fitness, it goes, oh,
Okay.
let me just serve that right up to you there. You will be struggling with fitness. So you could possibly reframe that. The other thing as well is, and this will come in with the EOS stuff, well, what is your why? What's your why for doing it? Because again, are you inspired?
You know what? That comes back. I love to have a goal to achieve. Like if I'm going to the gym, I find boring. As much as I enjoy strength training, like you hit numbers, but it is just boring. I'm never going to do, what is it called? Muscle show, whatever the heck it's called. I've lost the words now.
Mr. Universe?
Yeah, I'm not going to do Mr.
Yeah.
Universe, right? So it's, you see, like, that's not going to work. But it's just like not having that exercising for the sake of exercising. I think that's kind of what I go like, oh, but what's the point?
Thinker again. You
Yeah.
need to achieve something. Hence why I focus on
Yeah.
these goals, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Hiking and all of this stuff. Because if you understand your inclination, then you'll do the thing. Like my husband's just signed me up to the half marathon in Melbourne in October next year. Oh, this year. Oh, where are we? No, we're still 2025.
Yeah.
So next year.
You got a bit of time.
Yeah, got a bit of time.
You did it in 30 days, right?
Yeah, well, that was 12 weeks to do the
12
marathon previously, but I haven't been running for quite a while. I had a number of injuries, but again, I've been wanting to get back into running. And I've just, So I'm like, okay, let's book it in and we'll just do it. So for you, you might
just need to sign up.
Just work out what works best for you.
Yep.
Language though is a big one.
Yeah.
Even when you kind of was like, oh, look at myself, I'm not going to be a Mr. Universe. Why not? Not saying that you need to be.
Yeah, sorry. It was more the hairy arms. That's way too much waxing for my liking, thank you.
Now I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah, it's not in the
now I'm with
weight.
you.
It's not in the weight.
Because I'm like, really? I don't see it
if
as
you're
an
listening,
issue.
if you're listening to this, it's I've got really hairy arms, and Mr. Universe and hairy arms just doesn't go well.
That's awesome.
No, look, I had a lot of fun. Like I actually did gym with one of my mates, Clinton, for like a couple of years, and I really enjoyed it. But I kept hitting, I hit max, and then I'm like, I just didn't want to get to that next body shape.
Yeah, but I think as well, though, like I do the gym as well. I've done it for years, and that's really been a saviour for me. It's not just about, like personal bests. Okay, great. Yeah, I do PBs all the time, but it's like, okay, but it's not about necessarily what's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. If you just accept it for, well, this is actually really cool. My body can do all of these things. And I'm constantly grateful for that, like random things, because I recognize where I've come from. Like this is probably a little bit personal, but after the shower in the morning, I will put on cream on my legs and I will thank my legs for the workout that I've just had. Because often we're too busy looking at the mirror, frowning at ourselves, and the relationship that we have with ourselves is the closest one we'll ever have. But so many people are down on themselves. And imagine if you did that with your wife, how long would she hang around if you spoke to her the way you spoke to yourself? Or people listening, their partner or their best friend or whatever it is. Imagine being in a relationship with someone that you speak to them the way you speak to yourself. It just wouldn't last. Yeah. So just be mindful of the words that we use, especially towards ourselves. So I'm constantly grateful for my legs and arms and all the things that I can use each day.
I just want my knees to get better. Sorry. Anyway, sorry, we digress. I got really bad knees.
There we are again with the language.
All right, we really went down the path there. I want to bring you back to the identity shift. Probably a good little shift.
Beautiful.
In topic. But you sort of have a framework, which is the Be Do Have framework, and not just, it's not always about doing things differently to get different results, but it's just kind of, you know, that's sort of, so you're saying that's sort of backwards in the way of thinking. But do you want us to talk us through that framework?
Okay, yeah. So a very common example that I'm sure your listeners will be able to relate to is I often find when I get into teams that people will say, or if I just had the new job title or the promotion, whatever it is, then I'd be able to do X, Y, and Z, and then I could be whatever it is that they want to be.
Mm.
And I always come in and I go, okay, well, what if we were to flip that? Are you being that person now? Because for me, especially when it comes to things like promotions, as an example, why would somebody be promoted if they weren't demonstrating those ways of being and doing now? Which being and doing might sound a bit weird, but being is who you are being. So the characteristics, what are the characteristics of your being, and what you are doing. So how you communicate, how you connect with others, just your general doing throughout the day. So, yeah, because if you're going to promote somebody, you'd want them to be already exhibiting those characteristics and ways of being and doing already. But so many people are like, well, I can't do that because I don't have the title yet. And it's like, well, why would you be promoted if you weren't demonstrating that? So, but it's the same with any goals. So, any goal that you can think of, whether it's a relationship goal or a health goal, whatever it might be. And a really cool tool that I like to use is the Nemesis.
Oh, I like it.
I
like it already, but tell us more.
Okay. So imagine, if you think about all the great stories, like really good movies. I remember back in the day I was a Star Wars fan when Star Wars was out, and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. Because usually when you have a nemesis, they have similar skills, but they're better at it.
Yeah.
So when Luke Skywalker, because I recently resaw bits of one of the movies, and he was being a bit of a crybaby. He's like, I can't do it. And what does Yoda say?
You did. Geez, I should know this one. Dude, far out. You tell me.
There is no try.
Nah, there's only do. God.
Only do.
Love
Yoda.
I really under all my Star Wars tattoos. I just shed a little tear on that one.
Yeah. So basically, if you think about your goal but the one up on that nemesis thing is, think about you have a nemesis who is your twin. Because I kind of look at, if you just use a regular nemesis like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, some people might go, yeah, but they're not me, and blah, 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 and they'll justify their position. But so I come in and I go, well, your nemesis is actually your twin. The same DNA, they've had the same experiences as you, the same skills, except they're doing all the things that you are not doing. They're loving your partner better than you are. And you know what I'm talking about behind closed doors. They're being a better parent to your kids. They're doing all the health things that you want to be doing. So they're out, whatever it is, on the bike or at the gym or...
I hate him already, but go on.
Exactly. So with that nemesis, but this nemesis covers all of the life domains, self-care, wealth, career, all of those things. So if you write down, and this is a really great task, all the things that your nemesis is doing, and where they're focusing their attention, and then where they are not focusing their attention. And that in itself can change your life if you think about it, because it's like, okay, I really want to do this thing, but I'm kind of stuck on, I don't know, watching Netflix reruns or whatever it might be. Well, is that actually going to get you where you want to be? Probably not. Or I decide to purchase junk food in my house, and let me tell you, environment wins every time, so therefore I can't meet my health goals. Well, don't buy the junk food because your Nemesis isn't doing that.
Oh, I like it. I like this.
Yeah.
This is good.
It's super cool. So, yeah, anyway.
I guess that's the whole idea, is just to then shift your mind into doing what you should be doing, ultimately.
Well, it's coming from a place of power as well, because again, I have buried the word should, FYI. Should never be said.
Noted.
Because again, if we're coming from a place of shoulds, we're not actually choosing that thing. And coming from a place of power, we choose. So even if we're coming back to, now we're getting a bit personal, but when my parents passed away, I took over guardianship of my sister with an intellectual disability. And that is incredibly challenging. And there have been moments throughout that whole estate process where I wasn't sure if I could actually carry on with it. Not in life, I never felt like that, but in terms of it was just too much. And that's okay to actually go, this is a lot. And to acknowledge that, because there are times in life where it will be really tough. And we might be shaking our fist at the universe going, how much more growth is there, because I can't possibly take any more. But at the same time, it's choosing that. So if I ever feel that way, which is very rare these days, I think there was just a lot that went on. It was like one thing after another after another. And I was just exhausted. And when we're exhausted, we obviously don't have the energy reserves to then face some of these things. But when we choose in the moment, it's coming from a place of power that life is actually for you. It's not happening to you. And that's a big change in how you view life as well. So, yeah. I kind of got side off track there, but anyway.
I will not say should anymore.
Should, yes.
Yes. Should. And look, I think it's a good way to think about it. Especially demonstrate. Going back to your original conversation, regards to people saying, "Oh, I can't do that because I haven't got that title." Something I sort of struggle with myself in regards to always wanting to sort of become like a managing director. It was like this title-driven thing. It's just that I used to have. But I was sort of on the other side of the cusp of actually doing and not getting it's interesting of that sort of the drive to sort of demonstrate, and how do you sort of build that in? And I guess from that point of view, how does you from a leadership point of view, what sort of limitations are there in that sense? Because I think the changing in behavior as opposed to changing identity at the leadership level, does that play a part at all?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. So with the be, do, have stuff and the identity, to get to the next level, wherever you want to be, it will take a shift in identity. So for you and your health journey, you will not be in congruence with where you perceive yourself today. So you are obviously, it's funny because people often say, oh, I'm not comfortable with this or I'm not comfortable with that, which usually says that there's a misalignment with their identity, but it somehow aligns with your identity. Otherwise, you would not be there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a part of you that's actually pretty comfortable with where you are. And we call that couch, cartoons, and cake. So couch, cartoons, and cake is all about when we're comfortable, there's no real desire to shift. And that's a really,
Mm.
and that's the whole thing of a good life is often what holds us back from living a great life. But back to the whole leadership side of things, if you are looking at being a better leader, for example, with the Be, Do, Have model, well, then what I usually say is you may have someone that you may respect or think is pretty awesome in that leadership space, or you might bunch up a whole bunch of people. So there might be, for example, you might love Richard Branson's entrepreneurial nous. You might like Oprah's use of compassion. You might like, and whoever it is, you might take specific characteristics of those people and go, okay, that is my ultimate.
Yeah.
That is where I want to be. Or it might be, obviously it can be somebody that you admire at home. It might be a grandmother or father or whoever it is. And then you just be those things. That's all it is. Like, it's not hard. You be those things in order to do so that you can have. So it's be, do, have. But doing is still a part of it, but it's the main focus is on your being. Because again, back to your nemesis. What ways is your nemesis being in order to do those things, to have everything that is on your list? They've got the house, the car, everything, whatever it is, the holidays, the life. They've already got that. They're living that right now.
Yeah.
So how is their way of being different to your way of being now?
Okay.
Is that helpful? Does that answer your question?
No, that's, I think the being piece is the bit that was sort of the clarification there for me. Yeah, okay. No, I like that. Steph, it's been really cool chatting to you. And if people want to, find out a little bit more about yourself or get to contact you to find out more about what you do with teams and leadership teams, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can check out thinkcollective.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
That's just all one word. Or, of course, they can just check me out on LinkedIn or whatever else. But, and thank you so much for having me today. It's been awesome.
It's been fantastic. We went deep. I got to work on my fitness.
And sideways.
I got a word I'm not going to say anymore. And but look, you've given me a lot to think about. I really appreciate that. And I really enjoyed those sort of conversations where I start to work on my own problems live.
That's what I'm here for.
Live on a podcast. But no, I really appreciate it. I think it was really good and some good insights there. And I reckon, definitely worth having further conversations. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.